the saddle away, she'd end up on her bum, not actually on her feet. Nice horse, lovely boy. So he's part Hanoverian, bred in Scotland, was originally a show hunter. So have you done much dressage before at all, Nicola, with the previous horse?
Only low-level eventing dressage.
Right, okay. So whereabouts are you from?
Near Sidmouth.
Oh, right, so you've come a fair distance then. He has a very nice walk with a big over track. Do you find that you need that flash noseband?
Well, I have no idea what noseband would suit him. Mm-hmm. He opens his mouth an awful lot, even more so if I don't have the flash on. Mm-hmm. I did try a grapple the other day, but my gut feeling is he might be happier in a drop. I don't know.
Well, I prefer a drop. Because at least if you're going to use anything to partially close the mouth, because normally there's an issue, and the reason why a horse is he's opening his mouth, and so the trouble with the flash noseband is it shuts the jaw in two places, and particularly if the bottom strap is quite tight, and so it can actually prevent the horse from relaxing his jaw, and then if he can't relax the jaw, he can't relax the poll, he can't relax the neck, he can't relax the back. And he certainly got the paces for dressage anyway, no doubt about that. And Nicola is at least inclining her upper body forward so she's not bolt upright in the rising trot. So many people are being taught that now, and he's got a big trot, there's no doubt about that. And if she was to come too upright, she would really be making him drop his back and hollow. So I'm very pleased that she's not being taught to rise with her upper body bolt upright, because so many dressage riders are. And what I would like to see, though, is as she's coming back to the saddle, can you see that her spine is slightly rounded? She's not got her back flat, so she's actually slightly collapsing her rib cage at each stride. And yeah, when you're actually coming back to the saddle, try to think of keeping your front line straight so that you're actually inclined forward. And when I say straight, I mean flat, not collapsing, because I can just see you even now at the halt here. If we can just halt, you can see that Nicola's tending to round her back out a little bit here and collapse the rib cage. Yeah, and that's what you're doing a bit when you're landing in the saddle in the rising trot. If you just lean forward slightly and keep your back flat like that, so that you're not collapsing rib cage there, yeah? That's it. You'll land much more lightly on the back of the saddle. Okay. So I would say that, the saddle itself is not the best saddle for him,
Oh, this is the fourth saddle.
Oh, God.
I've had so many problems with saddles.
Was this a second-hand one?
Yes.
Yeah. Because I must admit that David does, a lot of people say that the Strada, because the panels are so flat, they're just not the best saddles for a horse of his shape. Some warm bloods can be really round in the back and quite flat, actually. But in his case, I'm just going to chuck this over, I'm getting too warm. In his case, because he's probably got quite a lot of thoroughbred there too, but he's got very much the lovely paces for dressage. I mean, he's super. Smashing horse. So as you land, just think about keeping your back flatter so that you're not flicking your pelvis out back behind you. Good.
Stick it out behind.
Yeah, so that you are rising, allow your pelvis to just point slightly backwards as you sit, but keep your back flat. here, so you're not rounding your back out that way. Because what I'm seeing is the pelvis doing that, rather than staying forwards, back, like that. Yeah, that's better. So you'll find it's much crisper in the rise and sit. Now I'd like to have a look at you in just your rising trot through to walk transition. So how would you normally... that was not a bad transition actually there. Have you been taught to rise right the way through to walk rather than do sitting trot?
Not necessarily, no.
Well, even if you weren't, that's what you're doing, and it's much better. So... Right, okay, but that can actually, you can't really adjust your breathing out in the same way as you can in a way that I'm going to show you in a minute. So when in your rising trot through to walk, you see most people go rising trot, and they may be inclining forward correctly as I'm asking you to do. And then when they come to sitting trot, because they go through sitting trot, they go plonk and sit upright. And of course the horse then drops his back and raises his head rather than lowers the head and raises his back. So by doing what I was taught in Germany was to slow my descent back to the saddle in rising trot. So instead of the going rising trot, sitting trot walk, you actually just slow your butt coming back to the saddle slightly. So the horse sort of has to catch you down rather than catch you up. And you pick up the swing of the belly then with the legs and push the transition through, and you get a much better transition. But your last transition was actually very good. So, okay, back to rising trot again. Good. Yeah, that's better with your back. You're not rounding that back out nearly as much and collapsing your rib cage. So try a downward transition to walk. Yeah, super transition. Very nice. You get a really good mark in a test for that, because there was absolutely no hesitation whatsoever. And it was because Nicola stayed slightly forward as she sat, but she didn't go into sitting trot. She went through rising trot, slowing her descent back to the saddle. So the horse then could feel the difference in her not being quite in sync with his movement, and that then brought him back to walk. She correctly picked up the swing of the belly with her legs, and away he went. Very nice. So, as I said, ideally, I would like to... Can you just turn him in across the middle again, Nicola, and so I can just show them where I would really like to see you sitting, which would help to stop you collapsing. Because the saddle is tipping backwards, if I take your foot out of the stirrup a minute... See, that is where she should be sitting. And now she's got no support for her knee whatsoever, because she's got lovely long legs. And that would be there, just sitting up a little tall. What have you done to your arm? You scratched it. Yeah. So now you can see that she's much more in the ear, shoulder, hip, heel line of balance. But as soon as we put her foot back in the stirrup, it's going to pull her leg forward and up into that, but it's now putting her out of the ear, shoulder, hip, heel line. And, with the amount of thought that David's put into that saddle, I could seriously strangle him, to be honest, for not, doing the last thing and put those stirrup bars further back. Because at least even with the WOW saddle, Dave Kempsell has put the stirrups... He's got two stirrup bars on, so you've got a forward one and a backward. It's still not as far back as I'd like to see it, but it's a lot better. But the flash, I'm just having a look at it. If you loosen it off at all, what's he like? And do you mind?
Yeah, I don't mind whatever.
Let's just see what he does, shall we? And what was he ridden in in his showing days?
Well, double when he was actually being shown.
Mm-hmm.
She said a snaffle bridle at home.
Did she ride him in draw reins as well?
Oh, I would assume so.
Yeah, because more often than not, you'll find that once the horse has been ridden in a double bridle, he doesn't then go anywhere near as happily in a snaffle on its own. And you'll probably find that he wouldn't actually open his mouth anywhere near as much in a double. Yeah. I mean, with a horse like this, presumably you do lateral work and things with him.
We've just started.
Have you? Yeah. Because he'll go up to elementary in no time at all with paces like he's got. And, to be honest, I've got a student with two really fabulous warm bloods, and she'd backed, well, they're homebred, and they were both in snaffles, but still quite hard in the hand, even though she's done everything right, And so we changed her mare Sarina to the double, and she's just never looked back. I mean, she just represented the Southwest in an international competition last weekend, and she got 73% in her first elementary at Hartbury. So, but if I'd kept her in the snaffle, I'm almost certain that she wouldn't have done it, because her whole movement changed, and she's so much lighter in the hand. And whilst he doesn't, he obviously does round up very well at the moment, he just looks like he's not particularly. Is that Sprenger, that one?
A turtle top.
It's a turtle top, and is that Sprenger or Neuschuler? Yeah, Neuschuler. And sometimes if they're crunching on the bit like that, again, it's because they're not that comfortable in it. We had a mare here, a Holsteiner mare, a few weeks ago, and she was in the Myla Comfort snaffle, and she was very, very gobby, but she was very above the bit as well. And we changed her to, actually, it's a South African manufacturer, Bomber's Bits, and it's such a shame, And the trouble is, it's not blooming dressage legal. And she was a different horse the minute we put her in the bridle. At the end, she'd never done lateral birth before, apart from leg yield. At the end of a 5-day course here, yeah. She was doing all the lateral work, in walk, right up to and including Trabert, half past the lot. And I know we couldn't have done that with her in her then bit. And the trouble is, for me, the bit is the key to the horse. But at the moment, it's the fact that, he is... The saddle is going to be tipping you backwards, and I feel you can't then influence him as well. You're doing a good job, considering, to be honest. And, I'd be more than happy to let you... I mean, I'm not trying to sell you a saddle in any way, shape or form, but it would be nice for you to just feel what it feels like to sit in the correct balance and not have to fight it. So if somebody wouldn't mind perhaps getting...